Welcome back to my channel. The episode I'm reviewing is called 73 Yards. It was written by Russell T Davies. So the story starts, they're in Wales, right? Ruby and the Doctor have landed the TARDIS in Wales. It seems like they're not on a mission or anything. They've just gone on holiday. He's talking about going to a beach, but this is not really a beach. It's more like a cliff or a nice little area. It's countryside. It's very nice. There's a sea, so maybe there's a beach nearby. But so when he goes there, the story is simple. So he steps on a thing called a fairy circle, and this sets off, creates an alternative timeline. He steps on it, and Ruby starts reading these scrolls.
Hey, there's little messages, look. I miss you. That's all it says. Rest in peace, Mad Jack.
It's so obvious. I miss you? Read between the lines. It's Missy. I miss you, Missy. Missy's back. She's the one who did the circle. It's obvious. That are on the circle. You know, the fairy circle are these little cloth things. They're strings all around them, and they've got little charms and toys and little messages. She reads one of these scrolls. One says, I miss you, and the other one says, rest in peace, Jack. And so then what happens is the Doctor disappears. We don't know where the Doctor is. I think he just disappears for into the ether. Ruby is, in this episode, Ruby grows old and she dies. And throughout the episode, she is followed by this old woman. We don't know what the old woman is trying to tell Ruby. It seems like the old woman is trying to tell her something like a message, right? I thought it was some kind of, it's got a sign language, but I don't know. It's always like shrug, open hand, closed, something like that. That's the kind of thing she's doing, but it's not, I've looked it up, it doesn't look like sign language, but it's some kind of message she's trying to convey to her, but we don't know what it is. They first land, the Doctor mentions something about Wales, Prime Minister who will become Prime Minister of England, and he starts some kind of nuclear war. And when Ruby becomes older, it's 2046, and she thinks the reason she's the reason all these things is happening, the Doctor disappearing, this woman following her, is for her purpose is to stop this Prime Minister coming to war. Apparently he's going to start a nuclear war or get very close to starting a nuclear war. So I'm just going to talk about things I liked, things I didn't like, things we can improve in the story. I'll just say right at the start, I really enjoyed the story. So the name of the episode is 73 Yards, and that's the distance between her and the old woman. Apparently this distance never changes, right? She's always 73 yards away from her, no matter what. If she's on a train, or in a car, bus, whatever, it's always 73 yards. And we know that because Ruby measures it once and she talks about how it's 73 yards. So one of the things is Ruby can't walk to the old woman. She always moves away from her. So she turns to other people to talk to the old woman on her behalf to see what she's saying, right? She is saying something or expressing something through her hands. Right, and straight away in the early episode, we see Susan Twist.
Down there, what is it?
Oh, that's Glen Gatwick, if you'll forgive my pronunciation, which they don't.
I haven't met you before, have I?
I don't think so. Have you?
No, that was different. Sorry, could you...
She's been in a lot of these episodes. We don't know why she's in there. And she seems quite friendly. She was on the cliff. She was a rambler. And she says, okay, I'll go talk to the old lady on your behalf. So we watch her slowly go up to the old lady, and she hears her say something like a whisper, eerie whisper. But once the Susan Twist listens to her, she just... gets really scared. I think she looks back at Ruby and she starts screaming and she runs away. This happens a few times. Each time she gets somebody close to her, they run away screaming. But I think what the old woman is saying to these people is a truth about Ruby. They're telling us something awful, right? Some awful thing about Ruby. I don't know who she is, her mother or something, right? And that is making them run away. But it's more than that. I don't know, it's maybe some kind of effect as well that she's having on those people to make them run away. Maybe they're so frightened or disgusted by the truth that they've been sown about Ruby, they just run away. Ruby actually recognizes Susan Twist, but then she says, oh, that can't be possible. That was another time. She doesn't even finish the sentence. So she is starting to recognize and see this person. She probably remembers a lot from the Boom episode, because when she was a hologram, Susan Twist was a hologram. So Ruby is left by herself. Doctor's disappeared. She's walking along the cliffs of Wales, and she looks for somewhere to go. And there's a village nearby, and she goes down there. And this is where some strange things happen in the pub, right? She goes to this pub and she's just asking to stay the night. So the scene in the pub reminds me of Werewolf in London. Yeah, it was, you know, that there's a similar scene, a pub scene in there. These ramblers go into the pub and they're warned about wolf, but then they don't listen to it, and one of them gets bitten. But this whole scene in the pub is weird. The landlady is very rude to Ruby for no reason, right? They play some practical joke on her. She tells them a story about the fairy circle being broken and her friend, the doctor's disappeared, and they just play this cruel this prank on her, and they wind her up about Mad Jack, because Mad Jack was one of the scrolls. And yeah, it was just a wind up. It was a complete joke. But what the whole thing, this is the first thing I noticed during that scene was, there's a close up of Ruby's face and her eyes are dilated. I don't know if her eyes being dilated means something, because throughout the episode, there's a lot of scenes of close-ups of her face, right? Close-ups of a lot of people's faces, and their eyes are dilated, right? And I don't know if the reason her eyes are dilated, maybe the actress had some kind of eye condition, that's why they're like that. They're not always dilated. Sometimes they're normal, sometimes they're completely, really black and open. And so there's one scene in the pub where she's going to pay for, she's getting winded up about the payment. She's trying to pay for a room to stay the night, and her eyes just pop wide open, and there's a close up to her face. I don't know if there was a meaning behind there or an effect. It kind of, so it was one of the things that led to me thinking that it was a dream, that she's fallen into a dream or a nightmare. So the whole pub scene was weird as well. It felt like a dream. All the characters in the pubs felt like that they were really the same person, and they were all like controlled, like in a weird, like nightmare kind of dream. So I was thinking it was a dream. So I should have told you, this is Wales, not in the future. This is Wales 2024. So eventually Ruby leaves the pub and she goes home. There's nothing for her to do. She can't figure it out. She goes back home with her adopted mother, and she tells her everything about this old lady, right? And they both go out into the street, and her mother says, yeah, I'll just go talk to him. It just makes sense that I'll just go talk to the old lady, find out what she wants, right? So they both talk to each other. She's talking to her mother over the phone as she approaches the old lady. When she approaches the old lady, she starts sounding different on the phone, unemotional. This will remind me of the time in the Christmas episode where they changed the timeline, and her mother just became a different person. So once she starts listening to the old lady, I think that she screams a little bit and then runs away. Ruby comes and runs forwards to see what's happening. Her mother runs away, and then you see her she's in a taxi cab moving away, and you see her staring at Ruby, and the stare is like, not a frightened scared, like a disgusted look, like something like she's been repulsed by her own daughter, like a disgusting or an angry look. It was a weird, odd look for somebody you call your daughter. And later in the episode, Ruby's in the house, she's waiting, she goes out shopping, her mother comes back, changes the locks, kicks out Ruby, tells her never to come back. Turns out a year later, her mother's actually put a restraining order against her. Ruby tries to talk to her. She just says, you're not my even your daughter didn't, even your mother didn't want you. So the whole relationship is gone. Though over the next 80 years of her life, she never spoke to her adopted mother again. There's a lot of loneliness in this episode, a lot of feeling of abandonment. I mean, maybe they were trying to make you feel how somebody who was adopted would feel. They would feel a little bit, I don't know, maybe they're trying to make us feel how Ruby would feel. She's unattached, unmoored. She's not got any close attachments. Throughout her life, she seems like she's kind of alone. As she gets older, she's even more alone. She has a few relationships, but she's always thinking in the back of her head about the old woman and what it all means. And so all the relationships kind of break down. Okay, flash forward 1 year, and she contacts Kate Stewart. And Kate Stewart, it's not like Kate's working for UNIT. They call it something else now. They call it Unified Intelligence Task Force, right? But I think it's basically UNIT, right? So, and she talks to Kate Stewart. Kate Stewart is the person in charge, and she explains the situation about what happened and how the doctor disappeared. And then Kate goes on, yeah, the doctor's completely disappeared. Yeah, he seems to not be in the universe anymore. He's gone. But then they were having a conversation about how it's amazing how the universe or the Earth is still going without the Doctor in it. And then Kate was like, and we have our methods or something, right? So UNIT, whatever their group is, they have something like a backup plan, like keeping the Earth safe, right? So I was thinking to myself, what, do they have another Time Lord working for them? Okay, maybe the Time Lord is the Master, right? Because at the end of Giggle, the person reaching for the gold tooth has red fingernails. And I noticed in this scene, Kate has red fingernails. So maybe it's the Master. Maybe they brainwashed him to be a good person and to help the world as a replacement backup plan. Or what do they have that's so amazing? Because if the Doctor's disappeared, how is the Earth surviving even in the future? Because this episode goes all the way to the end of Ruby's life when she's like 80-something. Even in the future, it doesn't seem to have had a lot of world-ending events. Not like a lot of alien invasions or anything like that. So UNIT was in charge for nearly 40 years plus or something. No, maybe 60-something years, 65 years, and there was no incidents. They seemed to be on top of everything. So I don't know what they had up their sleeve, but they were really doing a good job. So Ruby's talking to Kate Stewart. Kate says that she's been trained. All her agents are trained. They're thinking about grabbing this woman and, taking her back to the unit and questioning her. And so they send some agents, right? She says all the agents are trained against mind control, right? And they've all got things to stop them from superstition, like salt, and they're carrying silver around their neck to stop them from, I don't know, werewolves or something. There's one thing that I noticed that she said the old lady has like a perception filter, right? Like the TARDIS. If somebody doesn't point at the lady or make her notice, you'll never notice her, right? Like if the lady was there and nobody pointed, you just walk around her, you wouldn't talk to her, you wouldn't notice her, you wouldn't hear her. It's only when somebody actually say, look, there's a lady there, then that's when you notice, like the TARDIS or the fob watch, in the fob watch that keeps Time Lord's memories. So I was thinking, is she like the old lady? Like my idea, maybe the old lady was like a fob watch. Maybe that was Ruby's memory of something, and that Ruby was a Time Lord, and in her subconscious, the old lady was trying to help her out or keep her going emotionally or something. I even thought that maybe the old lady was her mother. And then I even thought that maybe the old lady is her from the future that's gone really old. And so Kate Stewart and her agents all go through the, old woman, and the same thing happens. There was a lot of agents around the old woman. They hear her and they don't scream, but they look back at, Kate Stewart and Ruby, and it's like, they're looking back at, like Ruby's done something wrong, and they just leave. They leave, right? And Kate Stewart's got an earpiece, so she hears the woman speaking, and she looks back. She's not scared, but she just says, "We need to go." Right? She tells everybody, and that's it. Ruby won't get any help from UNIT, and they just leave her. Oh yeah, when they're speaking, right, on the table there's a QR code, and it's a real QR code. If you scan it, it takes you to a Doctor Who website. One of the images is this actress who used to be in Torchwood, and you'll see her image there. It's a nice little Easter egg thing. So even in this scene, right, there's a close-up of Ruby again, and her eyes are dilating. Her eyes are huge, right? Our pupils are all giant again. So I'm thinking, is this it's not like it happens 3 times in the episode that our eyes are just popping open. So we go into the future. Ruby gets older and older, and we see that, the old woman is always with her. And it's like Ruby starts connecting with this old woman, right? It's like she gets some comfort that everybody abandons her, but the old woman is always there for her, no matter what. So she has that connection with the old woman. She's not scared of the old woman. Okay, so Ruby's in a bar. One of her other relationships are not working out. She's constantly occupied by the thoughts of the old woman and what happened. She sees on a TV show about a future prime minister called Roger Ap Glenwilliams.
Roger Ap William. That's a bad example of the Welsh. Terrifying.
Oh, yeah?
The most dangerous prime minister in history. He led the world to the brink of nuclear.
And she thinks that her purpose, that all this happened, was to stop this one man. So she dumps a date, she leaves a date, and she goes to the campaign office of this prime minister, future prime minister. And she just says, I'll do anything. I'll hold the courts, I'll do anything. So she becomes part of that campaign. She doesn't, even though she joins the campaign and she could have stopped him right then or done something, she needs to make sure he's a bad person, right? He's a monster, he's evil before she does anything. So you see her a lot of the time in the campaign for a while. So he starts from the campaign all the way to becoming prime minister. One of the reasons she thinks there's a connection is one of the scrolls she reads at the beginning before everything happened was, I miss you, Mad Jack, rest in peace, Mad Jack. And the nickname of the Prime Minister is Mad Jack. There's a scene where the future Prime Minister is having an interview, and you see her holding coats for all the staff people. And then the interview ends, Prime Minister comes, talks to her for a bit, and he asks her questions about this other volunteer. Her name's Marty. We'll get into the Marty bit. But then again, her eyes start, the close-up of her face again, and her eyes keeps dilating.
On Danny's team. She's a volunteer.
Right? And I'm thinking, does this even, I'm just latching on to anything, right? What has this got to do with the show, right? And Marty, the volunteer, it seems like he's abusing this volunteer who's doing something bad to this woman, right? There's a scene where they're in a football pitch and she learns that the Prime Minister will be getting the nuclear codes or something, or access to nuclear weapons on Saturday, and she's speaking to one of the volunteers, the Marty, and she says he's definitely a monster, and when he gets the codes, he's going to launch the nuclear weapons. And then she says, sorry I couldn't help you, Marty, but I just needed to make sure that he was a bad guy, right? He's evil. I think I'm only going to get one shot at this. So she goes out into the football pitch, right? He's at this football pitch. He's going to give some kind of talk or whatever, seminar or whatever, to talk to people, like 10,000 people there at the football pitch. She uses the old woman, as a weapon, right? She moves 73 yards about. She faces the Prime Minister, starts walking backwards because the old woman is always in front of Ruby and she's always about 73 yards. So she keeps walking backwards until the old woman and Roger Ap Williams are at level. And then the future Prime Minister, he notices the old woman and he hears what she's saying and he runs away, right? Screams, runs away. And then he resigns as Prime Minister. Yeah, Ruby starts laughing a lot after this happens. Yeah, it's on this news channel that he's resigned. And so, yes, she defeats him. She defeats him, but that doesn't end the timeline, right? This alternative timeline carries on, and we see her go into the future as an old woman. But one of the scenes before she becomes an old woman, yeah, she got a baby bump, right? She got a baby bump, and in the so she's pregnant. They don't show who her husband is, right? And in the future, she has a wedding ring. So she got married, and she has a wedding ring. So they never saw they never saw the husband. They never saw the child she has. Even she's a scene where she's very old, like 80, and I don't think she's in some kind of hospice. I think they're looking after her at the end of her life, and they never show the daughter's not there, the husband's not there. I thought it was very unusual. I just hope There's a theory, I don't want to spoilers, there's a theory that Ruby might be her own mother or something, which I thought was a bit funny. I hope that's not in the thing, because there's a lot better theories about who Ruby is. I've seen the thumbnails, there's a lot of theories about who she is. There's a lot better theories that people have come up. If she's her own daughter, you know, it's got all a snake eating its own tail thing. It's just kind of, I've seen it too much. I think I've seen it a few times in time travel stories, and I think it was a bit boring thing to have. Also, if you think about it, that means her father is also a husband. Weird, right? So Ruby is dying. She's in a hospital by herself, all alone, like she's always been alone all her life. And this is when I think she's on her last few heartbeats, right? And then the woman who's been always 73 yards away from her comes closer. She comes through the wall, and the old woman is always facing her. Like, she's always facing Ruby. This time she's not facing her. She got her back to her. And then Ruby is an old woman, right? There's another actress playing a really old woman, like in the 80s, and she grabs her hands forward to reach out to the old woman, and the old woman starts turning around. And then I think throughout this episode, you never clearly see her face. You know it's an old woman, but you can't clearly make out her face. But when she turns around, she looked a bit like a man, right? I don't know if they used a stunt man or what was going on. I think they should have just used the same old lady. I don't think the old Ruby actress was playing the other old lady, right? I think they had two old ladies, but they just stuck with. They should have used a woman. It just looked like a man. I don't know if maybe there's some meaning behind that. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe the old woman was really a man or something. But when she reaches out, the old woman turns around and she becomes the old woman, and she gets teleported back in time. Not teleported. She kind of wakes up in time, right? In the past, when she sees herself as young, and she sees herself as she's the old lady, and she says, this is where she kind of says to her past, subconsciously or telepathically to her younger self, stop the doctor from stepping on the fairy circle. And she keeps saying, stop him, stop, don't let him step, whatever. And she stops the doctor, and it cuts that timeline, right? That timeline ends. But I think vaguely it seems like the young Ruby from our timeline, she kind of remembers a little bit, because I think she said she's been to Wales twice, but this turn she's saying, I've been there 3 times, maybe. She's kind of confused. I think there's some part of her remembers that timeline. It reminded me of an episode with Donna. I think there's an episode where she gets a beetle or something on her back, and it creates an alternative timeline where everything goes wrong and the doctor dies. And it kind of reminded me of that. So Ruby seems to have some vague memories of that timeline. But it's like a dream, right? It's like a dream where you wake up from a dream that you know you've had, but the details start fading away and you kind of remember something and it goes. I feel like that was the thing they were going for, right? Let's talk about things I liked and things I didn't like and things that we can improve. Okay, the ending felt like a dream, right? It felt like one of those stories where it comes to the ending and it says it's all a dream and it doesn't matter. Because it was a dream, it doesn't matter, right? Because that first timeline ends, nothing that happened in the timeline matters at all. That's a bit of a downer, right? It's just a dream. So what did it all mean? So you watch the episode, you don't exactly know sometimes what's happening, how the fairy circle worked and what the whole timeline meant. My theory is that it was like the wild blue yonder, when the doctor spills salt on the floor to stop the nothings from attacking him, right? This is a superstition he uses at a boundary between the universe and the end into nothingness, right? And there's a boundary where the fairy circle is. The boundary is the land and the sea, right? It's a minimal space. And I think when he breaks the fairy circle by stepping on it, he allows an entity into our universe. I think that entity is one from the pantheon, right? I don't think Ruby was the old lady all the way through. I think in the end she was the old lady, but I don't think she was all the way through. I think it was a being, right? I like a dream, a pantheon based on a dream, right? a person who can create dreams and put people in them. And who do I think of? I think of the Dream Lord. Yeah, I'd like to see that character back. I know he was just a part of, turned out he was a real being. He was just a part of the Doctor's mind. Spoiler. But that was a really good episode, and he's a really good character and villain. I mean, I'd like to see that back. I think maybe anything's possible at the Boundary. Maybe he is one of the Pantheon gods. And I don't think he meant any harm. He was trying to tell us something with his sign language. I think maybe later on, when we reveal about who Ruby is, her mother and everything, we'll really learn what the being was trying to tell her.
The cliff tops are a boundary between the land and the sea. A liminal space, neither here nor there, where rules are suspended.
So I feel like there's a lot of dreamy things happening in this episode. I don't even know if it was an alternate timeline. I could have been just all of a dream, right? There's a lot of close-ups of her face with her eyes dilated, and I think that was like a dreamy kind of effect. I think the whole Wales kind of a very dreamy place to be. The scenes in the pub with everybody, it was kind of unnatural. It felt like a dream. So I think, yeah, that entity created a dream where she grew old and died, and he was trying to send her a message. He was trying to tell her something. I don't think he was trying to harm her in any way. So what did I think of this episode? I think it was a dream, right? I like this episode a lot. Enjoyed it. So I feel like I think I can understand what a lot of the Doctor Who haters, some of them are like stuck on hate mode. Some of them, their livelihood is based on hating Doctor Who. There's a lot of these YouTubers. I think the first thing they're going to say, oh, it's an amazing episode. The reason it was amazing, but because Ncuti Gatwa was in it. No, I didn't. I think it was a really good episode, and it's fine he wasn't in it. He would have been good if he was in it. But I can see what the haters would say about that. I enjoyed this episode. It was nice seeing Ruby by herself. I think it gave her a lot of development, right? It gave us, we were connecting with her watching this episode. We're getting closer to that character, and it gave her a chance to shine, and so make this emotionally connect with her. Maybe they should do an episode where the Doctor's completely alone and show Ncuti Gatwa by himself, and that'll make us connect with him as well. There was things like the beetle on, there was remind me of that episode with Donna where she has a beetle on her back. It reminded me of an episode of, there was a film called The Dead Zone. Christopher Walken was in it. He has car accident, and then after he wakes up from a coma, he develops the ability to predict the future. In the future, he sees a prime minister of America is going to start nuclear war, and he tries to stop him before that happens. So it reminds me of those things. Yeah, it was a very good episode. Ruby was good. Very strange, very different. I think if you're looking at Doctor Who episodes, it was a very different episode. Something different. If you're thinking Doctor Who's getting following a formula, it's getting boring. No, this is really good, well written, very, very. It makes you think, right? What's going on, right? It doesn't just tell you what's going on. You need to piece it all together, right? There's a lot of folk tales and devilish things around this fairy circle. You need to think about it. Thank you for watching. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Use the links in the description to support my channel. Thank you very much. Take care. Love you. Bye. Also, just let me know what you thought of the episodes, right? Because I love reading your comments, and I like to see a discussion in the comments section. It's very interesting. So let me know. Take care. Bye.